This is Justin.
And this is Haley. You're listening to The Price of Avocado Toast.
We're a married millennial couple wanting to normalize the conversations around money. We want to hear about your highs and your lows,
the do's and the don'ts on your path towards financial freedom. Hi Toasties, welcome to The Price of Avocado Toast.
Whether you're a first-time listener or you've been following us from the start of this thing, we are so glad to have this conversation with you today.
Today we are sitting down to chat with Becky and Robert from Sacramento, California about their relationship with money and their current financial status. I really think a lot of you will relate to their situation that they're going through right now. All right, we hope you enjoy and have a happy Thanksgiving this week.
Well, you guys, we are sitting down today with somebody that I know Haley's super jacked up to talk to. This is Becky and Robert. Becky was from the same podcasting course that got Haley rocking and rolling for The Price of Avocado Toast. And so Becky has her own podcast. It's Becky is Relatable Much. And Becky, I'll let you speak more into that. But thank you guys so much for taking some time to sit down and chat with us today.
Thank you for having us. We're so excited to be here.
Yeah, I know that when Haley and I started first talking about like, well, what if we kind of went into this slant because this is really what we wanted to do with it. She was like, oh, yeah, we got to talk to Becky because I know that you two, kind of hit it off in the podcasting course pretty quick between the similarities in where we're located in the U.S. and all of your kind of ideas and thoughts and stuff. So I know Haley was excited to have you on today for sure.
3U's night.
Yeah, Enneagram 3. Woo! So I reached out to you to see if you'd want to share kind of where you guys are in your financial journey because I know a little bit about where you guys are and you're in it. You are trying to figure this out just like so many of our listeners. And that makes you guys normal. And just like we talk about on The Price of Avocado Toast, we want to normalize conversations about money. And you, on your podcast, Relatable Much, you talk about
normalizing
normal. And so I'm like, wow, this is gold. We have to get together and just talk about the money situation you guys are in. So would you guys please kind of just paint a picture of where you guys are in your financial situation right now? Where are you guys?
Sure.
At the bottom.
Yeah, at the bottom. So last year, Robert had a different career in sales. And so he was making a lot of money, a lot more than we are now, which was nice. And then the pandemic hit and we realized he was going to have to make a career change because there wasn't traveling, everything was shut down, people were saving. And so we ended up opening up a lawn care company because, he's self-managed and does his own thing. So he wanted to continue in that place. And so we started that out and it was doing okay. But again, people are home. And as this pandemic started to drag out, more and more people were either at home or starting to crunch their own pennies and starting to make their own cuts and their own savings. Initially, everybody was getting a lot of extra money to be at home. So that it was fine to have your yard taken care of or get those summer projects done that you've been looking at. And now you're home all day staring at them out the window. But then that money stopped coming in for people. And so they started to pinch pennies. So we started to feel that in our finances. He ended up getting a second job working at Safeway at nights to compensate. And then we just could not continue to keep the business going. It started to cost us money instead of make us money with the more and more people not kind of wanting to follow through and, oh, my son will come and mow my yard or, oh, I got my own or whatever. And so now he's just working for Safeway, just got a new position there. So he gets to work days instead of nights, which has been a blessing, but it's a substantial pay drop. We are in the negative, the red every month. Short of prayer, I don't actually know how we're keeping things. Well, I do know how. We've moved my entire family in. I now have my mom, my brother, my sister, her son, our 3 kids, and 4 dogs. So that's 9 human beings and 4 dogs in a 2,800 square foot home. We have 4 bedrooms and 3 baths. So imagine how many people don't have bedrooms right now. We have kids sharing We had to build makeshift rooms because rent in Sacramento, I mean, rent anywhere in California is ridiculous. And so just for our rent, we pay
about $2,800 before any utilities or anything.
Oh my God.
just
to have the roof is $2,800.
just the roof. And he's making much less. So it meant we had to make decisions to keep a roof over our kids' head and to continue to pay electric. We have to have food.
Picking up any jobs that we can from anywhere we can, haulaways and lawn care stuff and anything we can do to try to earn an extra buck.
Yeah, because the other thing too is we're in the middle of distance learning, and I have a 13-year-old, almost 14 this week, a 7-year-old and a 6-year-old, and I'm teaching them. I mean, their teachers are teaching, but I mean, you guys are teachers, parents are the other side of this huge equation right now, and I can't go get work right now with the way scheduling is because I'm here taking care of my children. I don't know how parents are doing it that have children and have to go to work. So we don't have the means right now to add extra income. So we added some extra people, but we're just scraping by even with that because of the cost of living in California.
Holy smokes. That is just insane. That's hectic. Let me just say credit to you guys for A, being willing to share that. Thank you. And B, being willing to do what it takes to keep a roof over the kid's head. Both you guys mentioned it at one point. You each said, we've got to keep a roof over our kid's head. And obviously that is the ultimate need, but that doesn't make it, any easier to make those sacrifices or do those things like bringing in, 5 other family members. Like that's not easy. So
yeah, no, definitely not.
Yeah, seriously. And I think that, that's very poignant with your podcast name being, Relatable Much, because like our country is really struggling right now. And there's a lot of people who've had to do that. And in a high cost of living, place like Sacramento, it's just insane that what people are having to do.
We have friends that are going through that where they haven't paid their mortgage in 6 months and now they're panicking because they're not sure what to do. We've had to, I'm going to be super honest. Are you okay with that? We've had to defer my car payment. Like we aren't affording that on top of everything else right now. So that's you get like 3 months or whatever where they don't actually, it doesn't affect your credit to the negative. I just filed for food stamps because we are putting all of our groceries on credit cards. I have just about maxed out the last of my credit cards. We went from, I owed, I think $4,000 in credit card debt when the pandemic started to I now owe $14,000 in credit card debt because that's, I had them for the emergency, but I got to feed my kids and now they're home all day. So now they're having breakfast, lunch, and dinner at home. They're having snacks at home. And
they're bored, so they just eat because
right.
They're not stimulated. So they want chips or,
And my 14-year-old, it goes through his sprouts of like eating cycles. And same, my boy has been growing, my daughter, and now we have more people here eating. And so, and the dogs have to be fed. You got to buy dog food. We have a bearded dragon that we got for our son last year for his birthday. That thing has to eat crickets. Then you have to house the crickets. Like there's expenses that come with a family, and the electric has to be paid. It was 100 degrees this summer, right? I mean, now it's down into the 30s at night. You got to turn the heat on, and I hate PG&E. Like I'm like, put your blankets on. Put your blankets on. Where's your socks? Right? Like, and I don't turn that heat on until I know it's like I'll wake up cold, and I'm like, oh, I bet my kids are cold, and I'll turn it on to like 70, just so it like kicks the cold off of the house, right? Because I mean, can't afford PG&E either, so it's just like which bills do I pay? Which credit cards can I push off? And it's not just us. Like, and I feel like that's why, like when I say to him, I want to share because I don't want him to feel embarrassed, right? Because I know, like, as a man in a household, you don't want to hear that you're not doing enough. Yeah. But it's not just our household. And he works full time. He is literally picking up side jobs and extra jobs and doing everything he can. But we live in a world where right now it's not enough. And so, yeah, no, we're hearing it from multiple friends and family and people we go to church with. And yeah, it's hard. Everybody's going through it right now for sure.
So your business right now? Is it completely closed, or are you still doing it a little bit, or what does that state look like right now?
The business is pretty much closed all the way. I have a few clients that I still do like dump runs, or I'll do their yard to trade for their haircuts for the kids. We try to barter with them any way that we can because, haircuts are $25 to $40 a kid. And so I mow his yard twice a month and he cuts both the boys' hair. I mean, it's, stuff like that. But for the most part, the business is completely shut down.
That's smart though to barter. I mean, that's how our country built itself back when, we didn't really have currencies and stuff. It was just what can you trade? What value can you add to somebody and what can they do for you?
Yeah, honestly, I think it would benefit the country to go back to that.
Yeah, for sure. There'd definitely be some interesting ways.
Listen, it's been so tight. We told my kids, I don't want to talk too loud because they're upstairs, but we told my kids that Santa also was affected by Corona, as were his elves. We lost some elves this year, so we shouldn't expect too big of a Christmas because we have to be grateful that even though times are hard, Santa's giving a little bit to everybody this year because he doesn't have as many workers. Like, that is ridiculous.
Yeah, but you know what? Like, you guys are kick-ass parents.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, there's going to be people that are listening to this right now who are afraid to be that vulnerable, who are scared of what they're going to say to their own children. And you guys, just by that little bit right there, might have inspired somebody to say, hey, you know what? We're going to be all right. We'll get through this. I'm going to tell my kid that Santa's got hit with COVID-19 and they're quarantining. You know what I mean? Seriously. For real. I mean, I'll say, though, I seriously, Robert, just commend you, dude. I told Haley last year when we kind of hit our rock bottom with our debt, that was almost up to, at its highest, our debt was up to almost $200,000 that we owed to student loans, car payments, credit cards, timeshare, everything. I remember driving to work and just feeling like I told this human being that I was going to protect them and take care of them. And, I said that to our friends and family and God. And I, thought that was what I was going to do. And then you realize that you're trying everything you can and it's still not working. And you just feel like, well, damn it, I am working so hard and it's still not happening. And it really rocks you. It really rocks you. I mean, leaving your sales job, trying to start your own business, and then having to step away from that to go, back to somewhere, or I shouldn't say back to, but to a company like Safeway that's got jobs out there, but they're not paying great, to make those sacrifices, man. You're a good dude.
I appreciate that. And the other thing too is like when you start at a place like Safeway, you're not, I mean, it's the bottom of the barrel. I mean, it's like working at a fast food job, and not that those jobs aren't important because they are, but at the end of the day, they're for, 19, 20-year-old, 22-year-old, starting off, or people who don't have families. I mean, to raise a family of 5 and take care of them on a very minimum wage, basically, job is not suitable this day and age. I mean, it's just not something really feasible,
Yeah, not at all. My mom worked for Safeway as a cake decorator for a long time. And I mean, she barely scraped by. It was my mom and 3 of us kids. And we luckily had some help from family friends and stuff. But when she lost that job, it was immediately to food stamps and trying to get on HUD and stuff like that. Because, I mean, those government programs almost made it easier than Safeway did. Because
absolutely.
Safeway just does not pay that much. You're right. It's for college kids.
I got sick with a common cold. It wasn't COVID. I went and got tested and all that, but I got sick, and they put me on a 10-day quarantine from Safeway, and I made more money sitting at home doing nothing than I did working a 40-hour work week. And I'm not saying that Safeway's not a great company, because they are. They offer great benefits. My manager's awesome. She's always trying to give me as many hours as possible. But also, they're not paying $25 an hour for you to throw cases. It's not.
Yeah.
That's a frustrating thing I think so many people are dealing with right now. And a lot of people are really, really angry, the people that were still working. when everyone that was on unemployment was still getting these supplemental $600 a week or whatever. Like, hey, I'm still working and I'm not making nearly, I mean, not even half of that. I mean, so many people were making way more than they normally did, and it was frustrating for a lot of people, I think, because it's a bigger problem. The problem is, especially where we live in California, we're not getting paid enough to live normally, let alone you put a little sickness in the air and it's really not enough. And it's a problem that it's so deep in education with teachers and really every job. It's just there's not enough money there for people. So it gets very frustrating.
We are going to apologize to your audience because I have a house full of people. So if you hear some kids in the background or toys falling downstairs, we're sorry.
You're
Sorry,
all
everybody.
You're good. That's normal.
Yeah, y'all got
Okay.
9 people, 4 dogs or whatever. Yeah, you're good. If anybody's got a problem with it, you just tell them, hey, you're welcome to take my family and move them into your house if you want to.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
We take
exactly.
donations.
You can buy my family off me for a couple months, for real. So, do you want to ask this one?
Yeah. So, Becky, I know you've lived all over the damn place. How does the cost of living all over, where have you lived, first off?
I lived in Alaska, Washington State, and Texas, and then California.
I feel like this would be a better question for me because I've been all over to every state multiple times.
Okay, Robert, how does the cost of living compare, like all those places, compared to being in Sacramento right now?
So the infrastructure of California's economy is so terrible that literally any other state shy of like maybe Washington State or that's pretty much it. Anyone on the West Coast, California is the worst. And New York, and they all pay enough that they can sustain life a little better. California, the gap between pay and cost is so large that it's by far the worst. And then you have these little economies like Chinook, Kansas, that you can buy a 3-bedroom house on a half acre for $25,000.
That's insane.
And they're still making $12, $13 an hour, but nobody wants to live in Chinook, Kansas. So
Legit, yeah. I have a friend of mine who I used to do real estate for a little while, so I have some loan officers that are friends of mine. And the average base income you have to make right now in California to qualify for a $250,000 loan, which, let's be honest, that you can't even buy anything for that. You have to bring home your gross is $4,000 a month. That's the base. You can't. So if you're not making $4,000 a month, you can't buy a shack. And that's the reality of. Think about $250,000. There is nothing for $250,000 unless you are literally buying something that's been caught on fire, right? Like,
Yeah.
so that's kind of shows like there are when we lived in Texas, we had a house about the same size, and it was $1,300 a month to rent.
Wow.
We paid $28,000.
That's insane.
He's before the utilities to maintain it, just the roof, just the structure. And I mean, you make $12 an hour in Texas. You're making 15 here. Like he's right. The gap is so substantial. It's like no wonder we have the largest homeless population in the country. I just looked it up. Last year, 2019, there were 157,000 homeless people in California.
People can't afford it.
That's almost the entire city of other places, right? Like there are cities that big, but we can't afford it. And honestly, they're paying the state. It's almost beneficial, like you said, to live off of it. If you don't have rent and mortgage and electric, and you're getting food stamp money and you're getting medical and you're getting shelter somewhere, like why would you not in some cases? But then that's driving this huge divide.
Yeah.
Now we've got a huge divide between people that are either making a lot and can afford it, people that are scrounging by, or people that aren't doing anything, and everybody's bitter at each other's class and everybody's bitter at each other's status. And yet we're all just like pinching pennies, dropping coins in the Coinstar to try to make sure that we can pay the electric bill this month or the cell phone bill, or, I don't know how people are doing it often. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, and then you have issues like we have out in California with, PG&E and the wildfires and rates there spiking. You have issues with, you know, internet access not being a public commodity that everybody has good access to at a low cost during a pandemic when kids have to be home learning. And it's just like you
Yep.
said, 2,800 is just to have a roof where you can store your stuff. That doesn't include everything else. And people say, oh, well, cut cable and do this. Like, yeah, sure, you can cut cable, but I'm distance learning with my kids. I can't cut the internet, and that's going to cost me over $100 a month. I can't cut my cell phone because I don't have a landline anymore in California.
Yep.
I can't cut the water. PG&E is going to spike me over $300 easy in the summer. It's just insane. You're up to, like you say, you're up to $4,000 right there alone. And, people say, well, move or do this and do that. Yeah, but if I move, I'm paying security deposit, first and last month's rent, and I got to show you that I can get 3 times rental income in the state of California,
which is literally
insane.
where we're at right now.
That's insane.
Yeah.
So you're literally locked into the home that you're at because you somehow were in a better situation when you got into it. But it doesn't matter the situation you're in anymore. It's just insanity to me. It's absolutely insane.
And I think so many people were living right on the cusp.
Yeah.
Right? Like one catastrophe away. What is it you guys have said? We're one missed paycheck away. I think I've heard you say on this, that it'll all fall apart. And then a global pandemic hit. And now it's like hundreds of thousands of people are being affected negatively every day. Yeah. And I don't know.
So another thing that gets me that people tend to say a lot is, well, you should go back to school. I have a family of 5.
Yeah.
Where do you think I'm going to come up? I can't pay the rent, but you think that them giving me enough student loans is going to be able to pay the bills and I'm allowed to go back to school?
Yeah, no.
I mean,
that's just going to add to the debt because you can't afford right now. If you can't afford your bills and those are going on credit cards, then you most definitely can't afford tuition somewhere. So you can't cash flow it. So then it's just going to be student loans that you have to pay later, and it just makes the situation worse. And that's the thing that it's just a never-ending cycle, it seems like, for a lot of people when they're in this situation, especially when you have children. And yeah, you literally can't do that right now. That does not work for your situation at all. And Becky, you being like a real estate person and being stay-at-home, like right now, you are really stuck between a rock and a hard place with the options, with what you can do at all. Are you able to do real estate at all on the side, or is it just super, super slim right now?
Well, in the state of California, every year you have to pay dues, and my association dues came up in the middle of a pandemic, and so I couldn't afford the $700 to continue my license. So I had to become a referral only real estate agent so that I could keep my license. I'm using quotes, guys, keep my license, but I can't actively pursue any leads. All I can do is if a friend of mine is like, hey, didn't you do real estate? I can refer them to someone else and take a small commission off of that. But I can't afford the MLS dues every month. I can't afford the dues to continue your education. I couldn't afford to keep the thing that potentially was going to help me keep the thing.
That's insane. That's just wild to me. Like I can't, seriously, people are one missed paycheck away from things. And we're in the middle of a global pandemic, and it's not just one paycheck; it's months worth of paychecks that people are missing out on. And it's just like, well, good luck, hang in there, make sure you wear your mask outside. And it's like, are you kidding me? Like a family is sitting here trying to do literally everything right, staying at home to work with their young children to make sure that they get the education they need, going and picking up a night job, closing down their own business, which is, people want to act like that's the American dream. Start your own business, do what you can. And you've got to table that so that you can go feed your family off of, a job, like you said, that's for, high schoolers or college kids who just need to make some money, working a night job. And we're just like, okay, good luck.
Well, and just the toll that took. We went from having him at home at nights, right? We do our family dinners because we want to build good foundation with our kids. And so it was like we were making dinners together at night with the kids. So they were getting to see those, right? Because, okay, kids aren't getting all the education at school. So let's teach them what we can teach them. Let's make sure they understand what chores are and how to cook and cleaning and the things around the house too. So we're building that structure with them throughout the months of the lawn care company. And then he has to go to work nights. So now all day I'm like, quiet, quiet, dad's sleeping, quiet, quiet, right? So now they can't be kids because they have to be quiet because dad has to work all night. We're not seeing dad anymore. We're not getting any time with him because even his days off are switched and flipped and flopped. So he's trying to stay awake for 24 hours so he can just be awake with the kids, right? So we lost family time. We lost money. We lost the security we had, and now we are doing whatever it takes. And I mean, people know living with family is difficult. It just is. And you're, like eggshells and tripping around on each other to make sure that, I don't want to over offend or overstep. And they're trying to do the same. And everybody's in this same place, right? So it's like the stress on top of everything else. But then it's like, well, what are you doing to better your situation? I'm not effing doing anything to better myself. I'm surviving. What do you mean? What am I doing to better my situation?
Yeah, when you start to work, 65, 70, 80 hours a week, you don't have time to do anything. I mean, you shower and you go to bed and you hope that you get 4 hours of sleep so you can run the next 20 hours at these two jobs. And people don't realize, not only am I working those 40 hours, but I'm commuting also. So now you're adding more time, drive time, to two separate jobs. I mean, there's not enough time in the day.
Yeah.
And it creates problems at home. And it's like, at the end of the day, you're like, I'm happier just broke, not working 80 hours a week.
Yeah. This is something that I think a lot of people are missing too, in the education world with this stuff, as we say, distance learning is really hard for these kids. It's hard to learn through a screen. And I don't think enough people are recognizing what families are dealing with at home. We say it's hard for families to teach their kids. And it's like, yeah, but let's talk about the other traumas that these families and these kiddos are facing, right? It's things like where they don't get to see their dad because he's working 20 hours a week. Mom's family or dad's family is moving back in with us. So we've got extra people in the household. It's like we just gloss all over that. And hope that let's see what they can pick up through the computer screen and learn. And it's like, whatever other learning they do is 10 times better. Learning that the family's going to love each other no matter how hard it gets. We're going to pour into one another, and dinner time's important and chores are important. It's just, it just blows me away how much we've just completely forgotten what we all got into education for. That's a side note, but it's just it makes me mad.
I actually did an entire interview with a teacher. My son's second grade teacher. I interviewed her not too long ago because I feel like as parents, we're resentful. I'm ticked. I did not go to school to be an educator. I don't get paid for this. I want to miss my children. I want them to come home and tell me their alphabet. I don't want to do the is for T, right? I don't know how teachers do it. You guys should be paid so much more. But for me, I'm like, I understand how frustrated parents are, but what about the teachers? What did you lose out on? You literally did this as a career choice. So now you've lost your routines in the classroom, your relationship with these kids, your way to teach and grow people the way you know how to do it. So I did a whole interview on my podcast with a teacher to show the teachers are hurting too. The teachers are having problems too, and how that's also affecting them. I mean, teachers are working longer hours now, more headaches, more stress. They're not getting the time with their kids because their kids are in the other room distance learning while I'm really over it. We either all need to get sick or it needs to just go away because I am over it.
I love that episode. I was just talking to Justin about that today. I said she actually interviewed one of her kids' teachers, and it was really cool to see the conversation back and forth between the parent's perspective, but also the teacher. I mean, I know I'm a teacher, but just other people dealing with different situations. And I would never, ever teach little kids. And so it's just a different perspective when you have a different grade level, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're all, but I mean, the best you can do is the best you can do right now. So we're trying.
And I think that not enough credit is given to the parents at home who are having to deal with these kids learning. I mean, our teachers are like, I have 15 kids in my class, and you are 3 parents. 3 parents help teach, and the kids aren't getting to learn because you can't make a kid sit down through a computer screen. You can't, any of that. So they're really losing out. I don't know what's going to happen, but I know that we definitely need to focus more on teaching our children, because the teachers are having such a hard time through their screen. These parents are leaving their kids at daycares and at home alone with their 11-year-old sibling. It's like they're in school too.
Yeah.
They can't school their 5-year-old, 6-year-old brother or sister when they're in school also. Plus, then you got to factor in, they got to feed them and all that. I mean, these kids are completely losing out on their education. We're going to have a bunch of dummies running around, for lack of a better word,
Or at least they'll be behind.
Yeah.
But the other thing is like, you got parents who have to go to work, right? Like my son's teacher talks about one of her kids has got a teacher or a parent that's a nurse, and he works nights. So he never makes it to the school to pick up the book boxes of materials that the kids need, because mine are littles. They're literally learning how to write. Yeah. We can't do our education through the computer. We have to have pen to paper. Yeah. And so we can't have them going without the paperwork. But so she is now driving to different kids' house because the parents can't make it, and dropping off packets of homework so that the kids can actually have their education and can get through what they need to get through. And I don't know. I'm trying to find empathy and compassion and kindness for as many people as possible.
I am also doing that for some students where their parents work till 8 p.m. or they go to work at 5 in the morning, and so they can't go to the school to get their stuff. So I have to go trekking around town delivering books every couple of weeks. Yep. And I mean, I do it because if they don't have their books, they can't learn. But that's not my job, and it's just frustrating because everyone's literally doing everything they can. And in case no one has told you, you guys are in a really shitty situation, and you are doing you are doing the best that you can. And I'm not here ever trying to tell people to accumulate debt, but when you're in a situation where you are doing everything you can to make money, I mean, you could sell the kids. That's an option.
I don't know if anybody would take that.
But
have you met my children?
I did.
You should sell them so they'll give it back. They'll pay us to take them back.
Yeah. Good call.
But you're doing everything you can, and I think that you need to just remember that. And during this season of life, you might accumulate more debt. It's just when you don't have other options, and you asked me a question the other day, what do you do when you literally have nothing left? 0 at the end of the month, or even before the end of the month, besides filing for bankruptcy? What are the options? And the options are, you can sell everything in your house. You could get another job, but you can't when Robert is already working all hours of the day, and you don't really have options unless you were to get a night job and have your mom watch the kids, and then literally you guys are both never there. So the options are so slim. So I just want to encourage you to continue being as positive as you can. This situation is really hard, and it might get harder before it gets better, but hopefully this doesn't last too much longer.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, we've talked about too, because we want to buy our own house. We're tired of being in the rent race, and we're tired of paying other people's mortgages, especially because I did have my realtor license when I moved in here. So I know what this guy's paying for his mortgage and what we're paying him for a house that right. And so I want us to get into a space where we're more financially secure, where our credit isn't taking such a huge hit. I think I've lost 100 points this year because my debt to ratio now is so far up. So starting the year at just over 700, and now I'm just over 600.
Wow.
That's painful, because now, like you said, when it's time to go and rent something else that maybe could help us to start financially getting ahead, well, now I don't qualify because I don't have a 650 credit score better.
Yeah.
And he doesn't make 3 times the rent. And it's so we can't get out of you can't get out of this rut, but you have to keep pushing forward in hopes that something better comes along or that something changes. And it's like, but what if we could just save $10 a paycheck? Him and I sat down and talked about it. Maybe that's only $40 a month, but this. But then we looked at the bills. It's like, well, we're upside down $600 a month.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where do you save?
Where do you save $10 when you're $600 in the hole every month, and you're just picking which bills to push from month to month to month? Because, well, SMUD won't shut my electric off this month, and then PG&E won't shut my electric off next month, and then I'll catch up on that month, and then I'll like it.
You know, and like we don't eat out anymore. We eat only at home. You know, like we're not supposed to use water fountains, but I do. Well, I mean, nobody else is.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there's just only so many things you can do. And it's, if it were a situation other than a global pandemic, I think it's so much easier to talk somebody through what to do because you might have more options. But in the middle of a global pandemic, there's nothing you can do.
And if this were just life and you needed help, Becky could easily go get a job during the day, but you can't in your situation. You cannot leave.
Can't leave a 6-year-old to try and teach himself.
You could leave your 13-year-old to watch the other kids, but then they're not being watched because he's supposed to be doing his own school. So it's then they're just unsupervised all day and probably not paying attention to the teacher because they don't have to because no one's hovering over them, you know. So it's just a really hard situation for everyone. I hope after all of this that people have empathy for people who are looking to relocate or do things like if you were to move and your credit score is total crap. I hope that people are more understanding of like, okay, clearly we've all been through this, and maybe it shouldn't be all about like the numbers anymore. That's just my thought.
You know, I think a lot of it too is like, how do you teach a child who's had the mom taking care of them the whole time to, oh, now you have to babysit your siblings and do your schoolwork? I mean, it's like my 13-year-old, even if the kids weren't at school, even if they had a week off for Christmas break or whatever, he's still not mature enough to watch my 7 and 6-year-old for any amount of time. You know, an hour at the grocery store is one thing, but you can't leave him home all day long. He's not geared for that. That's not, you know, he's not a parent. He doesn't know, you know, what to do when his sister trips and falls and hits her head. Yeah, she doesn't need an ambulance and go to the hospital, but she needs an ice pack and be consoled. Yeah. But he doesn't know how to do that. He's 13 and he's not geared for that. A lot of people in our age bracket were. Our parents didn't, they just geared us to watch our siblings. We were watching them from really young. Well, that's not today's society anymore.
You're right.
And my kid, there's no way I would leave him to do that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think my sister was like 2 years older than us, and she was watching us. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, me too. We were latchkey kids, right? You just got off the bus. You had your backpack. You had your keys in your backpack. You went home. You unlocked the door. You went inside. You locked the door. And you waited for mom to get home 3.5 hours later because they had to work full time. Yeah. I mean, that's my life. That's how my brother and I were. And I think the one thing, though, that like this pandemic has showed me and taught me is that everything got to slow down. Our relationship this year has gotten a lot better, you know, and I've told him, I'm like, I'd rather be broke with you than rich without you. So like we're learning how to be resilient. My children are learning how to be resilient. We're learning new skill sets. We're getting now a little bit more family time, you know, and we're not going out, right? Because there's nowhere to go, but we're able to, you know, have a few close friends that we've been in contact with through this whole thing. We're getting more time with them because they're also forced to slow down. And so I know for us, we're trying to find positives as often as you can because the world was already set up to beat us up. The world was already set up to make us not feel good enough. It was already set up to make us want to compare with each other. And well, they have that really nice thing and they live in that really nice house, or they have those great cars and I only drive a Kia Soul and I only have a house that I rent. But it's not about all of that at the end. And so we're trying to teach our children now. I mean, you're not going to get as many things. My daughter for this year, her birthday was in July. My son was in April, right at the beginning, like literally as things were shutting down, he was geared up for a birthday. And we just had to do a small family one at home. And he was okay with it. When it came to my daughter, because she's a ginger and a little bit more, a lot, I had to sit her down and tell her, listen, this year, you either going to get a lot more toys or you're going to get a fun birthday present or a party. But mom and dad can't do both this year. And so she like seriously took her little 5-year-old brain and sat down for a second and like did a ponder face and held her head and came to me and was like, okay, I've made my decision. Asked me to sit down. I need you to be with my eyes, mom. So I sat down in front of her and she said, I really like presents, mom. And I was like, oh, she's going to want presents because she's like the most. Okay. And I was like, okay. And she's like, so I have a couple questions before I give you my decision. I'm like, all right, what are they? And she goes, am I going to get any presents? I'm like, well, of course you're going to get presents. You're just not going to get as many as you've gotten in the past. She was like, okay, is it going to be a really fun birthday party? I'm like, yes, I will make it super fun, right? Like she's like thinking on what her options are. And she's like, mom, I really like presents, but I think it would be better to have a good family day and share my birthday with my friends and family. So I was like, oh my God, I think I'm doing something right, right? As a parent, you're like in that proud moment where like, oh my God, she's not a total spoiled brat, right? So we got a like water slide bounce house, put it in the backyard, had a few family friends over, had a blast. 5 hours outside, they were sunburnt for days. I was like not on it with the sunscreen and their gingers, but life happens. But she was able to see a better way, right? Like I had a good moment in that moment with her that it's not always going to be amazing, but it could be really good anyways. John Acuff says that in his book. He doesn't promise perfection, but he promises that it'll be awesome in the end. And we're trying to teach that to our kids now because it's messy in the middle and we're messy right now. We're figuring it out and we're trying to teach them more than money, right? More than every time you go to the store, you get a toy. We did donations. We did Salvation Army donations and donations to the needy when we had a bunch of stuff we were trying to get rid of and we're trying to sell online. It wouldn't sell. And so I feel like focus on the good. Worry about your own situation, not everybody else's, because we don't know what's happening behind closed doors. And that is where I'm trying to stay centered right now. And I don't know, people believe in God, people don't believe in God, higher power, whatever. I just pray about it a lot. And I feel like every month the bills are getting paid. And every month something is happening to where my children are still being fed. We still have electric. The rent is still, right? Like, I'm just going to stay as positive as I can in a really crappy situation.
And it will pass. And when it does, things will get better. Even if at that time things are harder, we'll be able to get out of the hole as a society. And the options will be bigger. Right now, you literally have such slim options. It makes it so difficult to really do anything. So you are sitting there treading water, trying not to drown, and you're doing the best you can.
Yeah, seriously, y'all have a really good mindset nonetheless.
Yeah,
just to
for
say,
sure.
hey, we're still a family, and we're going to learn what we learn, and we're going to try our best. And like you said, first the month rolls around, and things are taken care of.
There's definitely times where that mindset goes out the window.
Absolutely.
That mindset goes out the window.
Yeah.
I mean, it is definitely like where I'm like, man, maybe I should, eat some crow and try to get something going again in my old sales job and stuff like that. And it's just like, it's not possible right now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just not, even though as much as you want to kick yourself in the butt and be like, do more, it's like you're working 2 jobs, 80 hours a week. What more is there to do?
Yeah.
And it really frustrates me to see these people that are like sitting around not doing anything and making more money than me off the government.
Yeah.
And it's like, where do you fall? Because I also don't want to be that guy that's like, oh yeah, I'll just get food stamps and HUD. And, I want to teach my kids, like, you have to work to have nice things, but at the end of the day here in California, it's like, if you don't work, you're going to have nicer things.
Yeah. When people were getting $600 a week, I mean, it was like, if both people in your home were unemployed, like, dang, that's not bad money.
I got laid off from my
Right.
teaching job last year, so I was getting unemployment all summer. And it was very beneficial for our family. We were able to take that money because we didn't necessarily need it and just put it all towards debt. So in my mind, I was like, cool, this is free money going towards my student loan. So technically, they're paying off my student loans. And I justified it in my head.
But you're right. I mean, if you're somebody who had the max unemployment in a week plus that 600, there's no incentive to go back to work. None at all.
There wasn't any. Yeah, there was none. But then you had the other people on the other side, like myself, who was doing real estate. So there was no unemployment.
Yeah.
There was nothing to go get. We got our stimulus check.
Yeah.
I didn't even
you know
get
what I
a
mean?
stimulus check because I own my own business. I didn't, like, there was no unemployment. There was no bailout. There was no let me help. I mean,
Jeez.
none of that. And when I started my business, it was too new to cover it under COVID as an established business. So I didn't get any of that bailout or any of that.
Yeah.
So literally, if it wasn't for Safeway, I would have never even gotten unemployment when I got sick, you know?
Well, I really appreciate you guys coming onto our podcast and telling your reality. This is unfortunately the reality of so many millions of Americans right now. And we have listeners from all across the world. And this is a global pandemic that is not just affecting us. It is affecting the economies all over the world. And I feel like people can definitely relate to this. And if you don't relate to this, I just hope that you can have a little more empathy to the situations that people are really dealing with right now. A little less judgment because people are working their asses off to just get by.
Yep.
Yeah, seriously. Well, thank you guys for joining us. Becky, go ahead and plug the podcast one final time. Let everybody know where they can find you to hear you at.
Awesome. I'm on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and wherever else that the site thing uploads to, but those are the only two places I've ever seen it. But it's it's Relatable Much, and I'm also on Instagram under Becky is Relatable Much.
Awesome.
It's fantastic. I love the podcast. Definitely go check her out. And
Normalize Normal. We're gonna laugh and cry and do all the things in between on my podcast.
Yes, love it. Well, thank you so much, guys. We will chat with you later.
Awesome. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, you guys. Take care. That was really great getting to sit down and talk with Becky and Robert. Their story is one that I'm sure a lot of people across our nation are facing right now, and it's something that you do not have to struggle through alone. I really appreciate their vulnerability and their willingness to come on and share with them. So Becky and Robert, thank you guys again for being willing to chat with us. Now, if you heard their story and you're thinking, man, that's awesome for them for being able to come on and talk, I'd love to do something like that, hit us up on Instagram or Twitter. We would love to have you on to talk. We want you to be able to voice whatever you're feeling, to get that burden off your shoulders and to normalize this stuff because we're all going through it and we all could have those comfortable money talks with our friends. So please don't hesitate to reach out if you'd like to sit down and have a chat with us. That's going to do it for this episode of The Price of Avocado Toast. As always, we are so thankful that you were here for this conversation, and we're so proud to be a part of this community. Happy budgeting.
You've got this, Toasties. Thank you for listening to The Price of Avocado Toast. If you vibed with this episode, share it with a friend. We'd love to continue building our listening community.
If you're interested in speaking more with a financial coach, hit up our coach Ryan at MeFinanciallyFree on Instagram. Use the promo code HELP50 in the consultation notes section to receive 50% off.